Es gibt noch einige Dinge, die es geklärt werden sollten, meinerseits. Da gab es diese Frage von, glaube ich, Shubhangi hat das gefragt, ne? Wie man oder Chitwan, jetzt bin ich mir nicht sicher, diese, äh, also diese vierte Kategorie der Textsorten, nämlich audiomedialer Texttyp. Das muss ich noch erklären. Ich muss zugeben, dass ich das vergessen hatte und deshalb mich nicht darauf nicht vorbereitet habe. So, das werde ich dann in dem nächsten Unterricht erklären. Heute beschäftigen wir uns mit Scopus Theory und da möchte ich nur ganz schnell eine Einführung anbieten und möchte auch euch alle fragen, ob ihr diesen Text schon gelesen habt. Ähm, Falls Sherry bei dir mit Chatten geht, kannst du deine Antwort gerne in Chat schreiben. Und sonst, aber wenn nicht, dann bleib einfach ruhig. Gautam, Nidhi, Ranjan, Himanshu, Mohammed Saif, habt ihr diesen Text schon gelesen? Okay. Wenn ihr nicht sprecht, nehme ich an, dass ihr das. Okay. Ja, Gautam hat geschrieben, dass er nicht gelesen hat. In Ordnung. Okay. Mm, was ist mit den anderen? Ich möchte das, ja, kein Problem. Ich wollte nur deshalb wissen, ob ihr das gelesen habt, um mit euch so ein Gespräch zu führen. Falls ihr das nicht gelesen habt, okay, ja, good, Nidhi. So, so you have at least, you know, dipped your fingers into the text now. That in itself is a guter Anfang. So, what uh, we need to see here in Scopus Theory. Also das ist hauptsächlich von den Übersetzungswissenschaftlern aus dem vor allem aus dem deutschsprachigen Raum entwickelt worden. Die wichtigsten Namen von Scopus Theoretiker, die sind hier dann äh, genannt, ja. Äh, und also Hans Vermeer, der ist der Founder, der Gründer, wenn man das sagen darf, von der Scopus-Theorie. Was bedeutet eigentlich Scopus? Woher kommt das Wort Scopus? Wenn wir hier sehen, äh, ja,
I think scopus means purpose.
exactly, very good. So, what do you think we mean by purpose in terms of translation?
What is the need of translation?
Sehr gut. Warum sollte der Text übersetzt werden? Was ist der Zweck dieser Übersetzung? Ja, and if we keep, why should we know that? Why is it important for us as translators?
I think scopus word come from Greek. Am I right?
Yes, Seth, you're right about that. What my question is now, why do we translators need to know what is the purpose of a text? Why is the text getting translated? How does that make a difference to us? Okay, Nidhi has written to know how source and target text function. Yeah. Uh, if we take this point to know how source and target text function, um, I think I gave this example in your class of these medicine, those um, dosage instruction leaflets which come with the medicines. and I said that in source language, let's say German, a medizinischer Beipackzettel has a lot more information than in an English text. So now, what would be the function here?
Could you please repeat?
Yeah, I'm getting an important call. Oof. Just give me a minute and then I'll get back. Yeah, just 1 minute. हाँ सरिता, मेरी क्लास चल रही है, कुछ इम्पोर्टेंट है क्या? हाँ, बोलो. हाँ. मैं पहुंच सकती हूँ, मैं क्लास रीशेड्यूल कर दूंगी. ठीक है. Sorry, everyone. There is a kind of an emergency. That's why. So coming back to Nidhi's question, mm, uh, Nidhi, I think you asked me how you asked for a bit of clarification, didn't you?
Yeah, I just asked you to repeat what you said earlier.
Right. So what I was saying was, let's take the example of these medicines dosage instruction in German and in English. We know that in German they are much longer compared to English. Now, what is the function of uh, dieser medizinische Beipackzettel? Why would one need to translate that? What is the Zweck? What is the scopus of this translation?
Ma'am, I think these theories, not just like we are discussing Scopus about, like all other theories, like gives a way to translate a particular text, and like how one or like the other person uses his approach, the process of translating that particular text, I think.
Yeah, you are right in that sense, Himanshu, that most of the theories do talk about the approach that one takes. But if we come to this, why was this Scopus theory when it was started in the 70s? It was seen as a, path breaker, was because before this, one was always talking about uh, how there is a this original, and that original should be kept in mind while translating into the while doing the translation. So the target text was not as important as the source text. What Scopus theory did was, sorry, Himanshu, please say.
Ma'am, I think like I just like I think before 70s, like there was a approach used to be a, like translation regarding literary text, and after coming of this, it becomes like translation of non-literary translation text as well, I think. Am I right?
I mean, see, non literary translation was there even before that, you know. Uh, but most of the translation theories that were being written had literary texts in mind. I think that is what you're trying to say. There was
Yes.
not much thought given to translation of non literary texts, Sachtexte, Fachtexte, all that. And Scopus theory for the first time started talking about these non-literary texts also. So that was one of its achievements. Another achievement was where it is saying that let's move away from this so-called holy original, like we have the Heilige Kuh. In German, if you say etwas ist eine heilige Kuh, it is something which is so, you know, something which can't be touched. Nothing can be done about it. Like it should remain the way it is, and that is what most of the translation theories before that also had this thing that uh, das heilige Original. Nothing should be done about it. One should try to stick as close as possible to that, etc., etc. Now, Scopus, its achievement is that it is saying that there is more to translation than the original. The original is just, sorry, Ranjan, you want to say something?
Ma'am, it is a structure same, ma'am. Just like you said the last.
Structure के sense में Ranjan?
Yeah, ma'am. You see na कि holy books are translated in as to. This is a structure same or different, ma'am.
हाँ, अब अगर जैसे इसी क्वेश्चन पे जो मैंने एग्जांपल दिया था वो बाईपाक सेटल वाला, ठीक है, उसका स्ट्रक्चर अगर हम लोग देखें, स्ट्रक्चर से तुम सिंटैक्टिकल स्ट्रक्चर की बात कर रहे हो या कैसे स्ट्रक्चर की बात कर रहे हो रंजन?
Syntactical structure, ma'am.
ठीक है, तो मतलब मान लीजिए कि जर्मन में जो बाईपाक सेटल है उसमें अगर हम कहते हैं कि इम्पेराटिव यूज होता है ये स्ट्रक्चर, ठीक है, तो क्या अंग्रेजी में भी हमें इम्पेरेटिव रखना है या हमें जो अंग्रेजी का स्ट्रक्चर है वो ध्यान में रखना है? क्या होना चाहिए?
Ma'am, we will keep the structure of English in mind while translating.
So what are we doing? So we, हाँ गौतम, right. So main purpose is who should take the dose, in what quantity, etc. And maybe the English text convention is different. Maybe their imperative is not used. Maybe something like should be taken, etc. is used. I'm just giving an example. I mean, I don't remember offhand how English bike path settle look like. So what we have to do is we have to keep in mind the convention of our target culture, of our target text. Because what is the scopus? What is the purpose of translating a medizinische Beipackzettel? Why are we translating it? Just because out of fun, or there is a purpose behind it?
Ma'am, there's a purpose, like so that the physician can effectively communicate and make his patient understand
Right,
about the doses.
right. So the communication is important, effective communication, uh, which leads the patient to take the medicine in proper dosage, and also knows what could be the dangers, side effects of that particular medicine. So that, and if we are and use it in a language which the patient has come across earlier. When I say use it in the language, in the sense, the language, the structure, the convention, so where that is important, and not the so the Informationsangebot which is there in the source text should get conveyed in the target text, but not necessarily in the same way as it is done in the source text. That is what we have to keep in mind. And if you look at here, the theory adopts a prospective attitude to translation as opposed to the retrospective attitude adopted in theories which focus on prescriptions derived from the source text. So one of the things that this theory does, what do we mean by terms prospective and retrospective? What does retrospective mean?
Ma'am, retrospective refers to past, and uh, perspective refers to the future, maybe.
Right, right. So when we say the theory adopts a prospective attitude to translation as opposed to the retrospective attitude adopted in theories which focus on prescriptions derived from the source text, what are they trying to say in simple terms? Basically, that one looks not at the source text for uh, inspiration in that sense, but at the target text or target language or target culture. So where so this theory, as compared to other theories which were saying that this is the source text, this is how it should get translated, etc. Scopus theory, what it does is that a particular kind of genre, gets is written in the source language in this way. And now whatever I have got to translate has to be translated in such a way that I am fulfilling the scopus of the target language culture text. So in that sense, it is not retrospective. I mean, if I, let me just write it down in the source text oriented is equal to retrospective. No, what am I saying? Prospective. Oof. Please help me. My mind is not working because of some worries today. Source text is the text which is into the language or from the language. Thank you. I am today. There's been some strange news. That's why I am retrospective and target text oriented is equal to prospective. Yeah, that is the thing. Okay. And like Himanshu already said, that this was one of the very few theories at that time which dealt with non-literary text types. What else do I want to point out today? Because then I'm hoping that you all would have read it when we meet for the tutorial, where we talk in more detail about it. Okay, this is important. Since scopus varies with text receivers, the scopus of the target text and of the source text may be different. In cases where the scopus is same for the two texts, one speaks of Funktionskonstanz. So what we know is, let's take this example of some, a book on Deutsche Redewendungen. Yeah. Why would a German read a book on Deutsche Redewendungen? What would be the scopus of that text in its target, in its source language? A book of idioms, ein Buch der Redewendungen. Or let's say, why German? Why would you read a book on Indian Redewendungen? Okay, to understand, yeah. Okay, so let's take this book. I don't know if a book like this, Indian idioms, huh? You come across this book in a bookshop and you pick it up because you want to improve your language. You want to write whatever you write with better, idioms, etc., etc. Now, this would be your scopus. The text is providing you with this scopus. The reader gets to use Indian idioms in a better way in his or her writing. Now, someone comes to you and says that you translate this text for me into German, and why would you then what would be the question that you would be asking that Auftraggeber? Yeah, correct. So wer ist der Übersetzungsinitiator und wer liest dieses Buch? So, wer liest das Buch? Das heißt, was ist der Scopus dieses Buches? Right? Now, if I am the Übersetzungsinitiator and maybe the Auftraggeber, both together, and I say, this is we are getting this book translated for the German linguists who are doing a project on how the idioms in different languages treat nature. Is my scopus then different than the initial scopus? So that is what here they say, since scopus varies with text receivers, the scopus of the target text and of the source text may be different. And if you know that they want to know about how nature gets translated in different world languages, let's think of any Indian idiom which talks about nature. हाँ, very good. खोदा पहाड़ निकली चूहिया या चूहा. Okay. खोदा. हाँ. Now, what will you do? How will you translate it? What will be your? I mean, what does this idiom mean? Right. So if that is the meaning, and but here also then pahad is being used, है ना? It's a natural aspect in that sense. Now, what will be? How will you be translating it? Will you try to show through your translation the aspect ki after a lot of work nothing came out of it, like Nidhi has written much ado about nothing, um, or would you then do a more literal translation? Right. And but if this idiom was being this Redewendungen book was being translated because one wants to have a handbook of idioms in different languages which have similar meanings, then how would you translate it? See, that was your answer was absolutely right, Gautam, that you would then do a more literal or let's say a more close translation. Yeah. But if this same book that we talked about, this book of Indian idioms, this was getting translated in a series of, idioms from all over the world, and you are also providing a kind of an parallel in German. So would you then still stick to nach dem Berggraben fand man eine mouse or something like that? Or would you then try to find mm, a German idiom which would convey the meaning of what Khoda Pahar Nikli Chuhiya does?
I think German.
Yes. So, are you seeing how the scopus decides how you will translate it?
Yeah, ma'am.
So, this is what, and so here you are already going away from the original in that sense, right? You're saying the original is only a base for me, but the purpose of why something is getting translated plays a role in how I translate, right? So that is the achievement of our Scopus theory, and that is why it is also, if you, it does away with this hierarchy of, original and translation, and it makes the translator. I think I have said this earlier also. It makes the translator an expert on of in a different sense, not only linguistically but also an expert on how the target culture functions. Yeah. So all that, I mean, that is why Scopus theory is also considered a very emancipatory theory, where the translator is not bound to the mm, source text. Yeah. So, keeping all this in mind, I would request that you read this once again. And uh, my another request is that think of questions that arise while you are reading it. I'm sure there are some questions that come to mind. Note them down, because then they help us in discussing things, in getting more clarity out of it. So, do a more, like when I was reading it, why I want to show you this is that these were the things which were like, so why have I marked Vermeer? I want to uh, maybe take a look, who is Vermeer, what has he done, uh, what is his contribution. Then I have highlighted these things because these are things which were, affecting me. So I want to request all of you to please mark, do your, you know, do an annotated reading, mark things, and then ask them in class. Like Himanshu came up with something, Saf came up with something, Nidhi, Gautam. So be, active participants in the class in that sense. Ranjan said something. Ajay has now written something in chat. So he's given an explanation. Do that. Sherry, of course, she has already said that she's not well, so obviously she was not participating. Uh, I mean, actively participating. So do that. That is when you would be like, and doubts are valid. We all have doubts, and we should talk about them. But the first step is
Ma'am,
do
can
the
I ask you
reading.
one thing?
Ha, Himanshu?
Ma'am, while translating a particular text, for example, if we are translating for example, play or a
Yeah.
particular short story or something like that, like, can you suggest us like what kind of a approach do or what kind of approach should we have like while considering the translation of that particular text? I mean, like there are some basic these theories. Like I have gone through this corpus, and one theory which I know is like action theory, if I'm not wrong.
Right. Yeah.
So, apart from these two theories, are there any more theories which we need to like build kind of a foundation for ourselves to like to think like there is an approach like some kind of a protocol set in to translate a particular story or something like that? So my question is like, when you have translated your works, so what kind of a foundation do we need to create of these theories? Like, what are the number of theories are like we should keep in mind, and like, do they like kind of differ from every kind of text we used to read, like from shorter narratives to a longer one? Like, as you have translated many texts, so you can get or you can give us a more idea. Like, for example, if you are translating a novel, so what kind of a approach and what kind of a theories it used to have, like while you are doing it, and when it comes to a play or something like that, so the basis of those all transitions remains same, or it differs from like scopus to action to, or it's just like one thing which you have to keep as a basics of yourselves?
Okay, quite a few questions, Himanshu. Let me first begin with what are the theories that would help us as translators to, stand on, to have a more firm footing. Yeah. Uh, when it comes to literary texts, Schleiermacher, in any case, Schleiermacher, or if you want to read a more modern version, read Lawrence Venuti's Strategies of Translation. Yeah. Uh, Venuti leans very heavily on Schleiermacher's strategies. So, in that sense, yeah, both are needed. Uh, then, what else? It is also important to read on post colonial translation, where again they are also going, in that sense, they are also talking about how you move away from this so called original, where, uh, and they're also talking about how translations contribute to nation building, etc. But post-colonial translation theoreticians, theorists, sorry, mm, they are not they are not prescriptive in nature. They don't tell you this is how you should be doing things, right? Schleiermacher is prescriptive in nature. Why I and now coming and so see, the translation is not just about telling you how things should be done, but it is also how translations happen. Uh, what is the politics behind translation? Why certain things get translated? I'm now talking predominantly about literary texts, yeah. Or let's take my example, Himanshu. Like you said, I have translated a bit from German into Hindi literary works. So, why is it that so much gets translated from German into Hindi, and the other way around, from Hindi to German, there is lesser translation? Uh, what could be the reason behind it? Could it be that the German speaking countries give more money for their works get reaching a larger audience, whereas in India we don't have any kind of funds for getting our works translated into German or other world languages. So even why is it that there are so many departments of German studies? Why are there so many institutes which offer German? Why is it that in Germany, if I were to take the example, the most of the departments of Indology are closing down? Why are there so few students who take up Hindi? Why more people take up Chinese? Why do more people take up Japanese? Why even Arabic for that matter? Could it be also related to the kind of mm, uh, support certain countries give to their languages, whereas other countries don't? So all this is also a part of politics of translation, Himanshu. Yeah. Uh, so now, when I translate, if I talk about Schleiermacher or Venuti, Lawrence Venuti, both of them talk about two ways of translating. One where you take So on the one hand you have the author, and on the other hand you have the reader. So one approach is where you let the author remain wherever he or she is placed, and you bring the reader to the author. That is one approach. The other approach is where, and this is called foreignizing translation. And the other approach is where you let the reader remain where he or she is and bring the author to the reader. This is known as the domesticating translation. When I translate, I try to do a more foreignizing translation. Of course, there, when you are doing a foreignizing translation, one of the premises that you have is that your target reader is already used to, reading that kind of uh, texts, that kind of literature. Otherwise, the danger is there that it is so foreign, it is so strange, that he or she will not read it at all. So it is also, translation is about balancing where to be this, where to be that. Okay. The third question that you asked was, how do I translate when I'm translating a play versus a novel? There, then I again ask you a question. Why do we translate plays?
Ma'am, to reach to a specific audience, for example, if I'll take a person who is translating a novel from German to Hindi, maybe specific to India or maybe specific to people who used to speak Hindi. So to get a larger audience as compared to German speaking countries, I think. Or if
Right?
some
Yeah.
or if someone
But
is translating to in English. So
yeah,
that's why I think like most of the people also like apart from German speaking countries opt for like pursuing this language course like MA or PhD in like US or UK to get a like more approach towards their audience if they are more in this field kind of publishing and all that stuff, I think.
true, true. But coming to plays, why I asked you this question was, when you translate a play, it can have at least two purposes. One, you are translating the play just because someone wants to read the play, right? The second thing is that play might be intended for performance. So when you are that play is intended for performance, you might have to translate in a different way than when it is just meant for reading. You know, then you have to also look at the performative aspects. How do, and for that you need a different kind of expertise. For example, recently some of us translated some German plays into Hindi and other languages. This was initiated by Goethe Institute, Mumbai. And so here we, the translators, were not so aware of how the plays, the technicalities of performance uh, happen in the Indian context. So we did a more close translation, and then these our close translations were given to uh, experts within India who deal with plays, and then they, with the help of our translation, gave it a more you know performance apt form. So you see how, depending on what is the purpose of a thing which is getting translated, also changes how it gets translated. So again, the scopus. Yeah. So it is, in that sense, scopus is also one of the important theories that you need, and which you already mentioned. What else? If I were like talking about translation of plays, then I would definitely read up Sherry Simon, who has spoken about the different aspects of translating performative texts, etc., etc. So it is also what I'm translating. Then I look up things, which theoretician would be helpful for me. So there is nothing like, these are a must read. But yeah, sh- uh, what I would definitely say, that you should know when you are working as a, you know, translation studies student, is your Schleiermacher, is your Walter Benjamin, which we would be doing in next semester, uh, your Scopus theory, your post-colonial translation, your what else? Polysystem theory, localization, Anthony Pym, etc., etc. So just some of the names that I'm telling you, out of like spontaneously.
Ma'am, and like at master's level, for
Yeah,
example, like this is our first semester. Like,
right.
for example, if we are in third semester, or if I'll specifically speak about myself, like if I am third semester,
Yeah,
and if I am about to translate a shorter, like short play, something like that, to
yes,
get it published. So
right.
will it be like beneficial for me for my academics? Like, will it give me like kind of some kind of benefit in my academic field if I'll be going to pursue something else in future? Like, for example, because I don't think so to expect more from myself to translate more than a play.
Yeah.
Like,
In
so.
fact, if you were to translate a play, that is very, very challenging. Like I just told you, the kind of things that you would need to keep in mind. Whether it is just for the purpose of reading or performance, then you need to read up on how the plays in India, or if you were translating in English, mm, in English speaking world function, etc., etc. So it is not little work in
So,
that
ma'am, can you
sense.
suggest us like a simple work from which a young student can begin, like if in terms of translation? Like, I thought play because play is like usually a small one, although
Hmm.
it's tricky also. So that's why I just told you play, nothing like that.
Hmm. Yeah,
So can you just tell me like what should I start like if I really want to publish something in this
I would
two?
suggest you start with shorter narrative.
Okay.
you know uh,
Ma'am, any specific one? Like as I have seen some of your books, like on Amazon, like you have worked upon Herta Mueller, which is
yes.
also like which has won Nobel Prize. So the
Hmm.
thing is like it also depends upon like if I am doing something on very like prestigious person, or sometimes it also feels like if I found it like kind quite interesting, or like really like knowledgeable. So it,
Yeah.
it also depends upon both the things, like whether I should approach for a prestigious person or I should be like in my own zone.
See,
What?
again, I mean, this also has to do something when you talk about me translating Hatta Mueller. Again, I'll talk about the politics of translation. So, why does a Hatta Mueller get translated into Hindi? Uh, the reason being, I mean, Hatta Mueller is great, but why was Hatta Mueller not translated earlier into Hindi, and she got translated into Hindi once she won the Nobel Prize? What is the politics of translation there? It is that one wants, I mean, where, so she becomes marketable in that sense, na? She has now this branding. This is a work by a Nobel Prize winner. Yeah. And I mean, when I first started translating her, I didn't like her at all. But then when I read her more deeply, then I started enjoying her. So here that enjoyment didn't come in the beginning. It was because I was asked to do it, and while I was at the job, I started enjoying her, and then later on, I went out of. I mean, it was my decision to take up her essays for another thing. So where, so again, you have the option, Himanshu. You either say that I want to translate this thing because I enjoy this thing, or you decide, okay, this person will sell better in India because of whatever reasons, and that is why I do it. So that, and very often you would not have that choice. You're see, because if you're translating something, you obviously want to get it published also, na, somewhere or the other,
Yes, ma'am.
either in a magazine or if it is a book, then by one of the publishers, etc. So the very often, and in fact, if you all are thinking of it, you should approach, uh, look which are the magazines which publish translations. You tell them that this is a text that I would like to do for you. This would fit in with this thing. So as a translator, you have to be also very proactive. It takes time for your name to be well known. You have to do things for it. So coming to I mean, I would suggest first, because you take up something that you really enjoyed reading and translate it. Okay. And then once you get established, then obviously people would be coming to you asking you to translate for them.
Ma'am, is it necessary to start with a shorter narrative text
No,
for the
not
translation?
no, not necessary. It's just that it is easier. Poetry, we think it is easy because it is short and all that, but in fact, poetry is one of the more difficult, you know, texts often. Because if you
No,
think of it, yeah, Deepti.
या नहीं मतलब बिकॉज क्योंकि मैं जो ट्रांसलेट करने की कोशिश करती हूँ वो छोटे छोटे ना मतलब आर्टिकल्स होते हैं न्यूज आर्टिकल्स
Good. Huh. So here, that is also a good way. Himanshu was asking about literary text. That's why I gave this example.
ओके
Or
पर
did I?
मैम
हाँ, बोलो
उसमें
दीप्ति.
आर्टिकल्स को ट्रांसलेट करते टाइम काफी ज्यादा प्रॉब्लम्स आती हैं
जैसे?
मैम कई बारी तो जैसे टेंसेस की भी प्रॉब्लम आ जाती है जैसे अब जर्मन में तो हम पास्ट में जैसे एक ही ले लेते हैं प्रेटेरिटुम वाला तो लेकिन इंग्लिश में तो बहुत सारे होते हैं तो वहीं पे प्रॉब्लम आ जाती है कि हम प्रेजेंट परफेक्ट यूज करें सिंपल पास्ट यूज करें तो इस टाइप के बहुत सारे सेंटेंसेस ऐसे स्ट्रक्चर आ जाते हैं जिसमें मतलब मुझे ट्रांसलेट करने में बहुत ज्यादा प्रॉब्लम होती है
I can imagine. Tenses are one of the biggest challenges. In fact, अगर जर्मन से इंग्लिश या जर्मन से हिंदी में भी करो तो भी बहुत सारी मुश्किलें आएंगी. एंड तो सवाल ये है कि एक तो जब आप पढ़ रहे हैं, आपको समझ में भी आ रहा है कि अच्छा, यहाँ पे तो ये ज्यादा सही साउंड कर रहा है. मतलब जब मैं इंग्लिश में लिखूंगी तो ये इसका ये होगा. मतलब मुझे और दूसरी चीज, आपको मालूम होना चाहिए कि जर्मन में जो टेंस है, अगर मान ले कि प्रेटेरिटुम, उसका फंक्शन क्या है, और उस फंक्शन के लिए इंग्लिश में आपके पास क्या क्या चॉइसेस हैं. तो यू नीड टू हैव योर ग्रामर इन दैट सेंस, योर इन प्लेस, डिस्क्रिप्टिव ग्रामर, है ना, कि ये वाले चीज के लिए अंग्रेजी में प्रेजेंट परफेक्ट चलेगा, इसके लिए प्रेजेंट कंटिन्यूअस चलेगा, या पास्ट परफेक्ट चलेगा, या सिंपल पास्ट चलेगा, या क्या चलेगा. ठीक है. एंड व्हाट, या हिमांशु.
Ma'am, apart from like this theory, this context, ma'am, can I ask you, like, as our you are our mentor for this course, like for now. So, ma'am, are there any scholarships like regarding? I have heard about there are some types with Mumbai University and at times with JNU as well, like for specific like translation works. Are there any like works, like kind of workshops in between both of the universities, or maybe any other universities out of our like abroad, or for example, like Germany, Austria, Switzerland?
See, we used to have this scholarship. I don't know what is happening with it right now, where we have a tie-up with the with the Bergische Universität Wuppertal, na? And JNU is also a part of that. The only or was a part. I don't know what is the current status. Where earlier it was like this, that the DU students, the DU master students, would be translating from Hindi into German, and the JNU students would be translating from German into Hindi. So, in fact, one of my works was an anthology of, women's writings from German-speaking countries, and this was a part of the Wuppertal project. And the last thing that we did from here, from DU, was where the MA students, they translated this one. What is her name? Sheila Rohikar's novel. She's an Indian writer, an Indian Jew who writes about, the lives of Jews in India, etc., etc. And that was sorry.
Ma'am, one is bound to like to do the specific translation in Hindi. Can't he or she use like English as a mode of translation?
Mm, if you're talking about this university thing, that is how it was, conceptualized. Uh,
Okay.
and another thing regarding scholarships, other scholarships, what Goethe Institute, Max Müller Bhavan does is also it gives, translation funding, a translation support, but that comes via the publisher. So let's say you approach a publisher saying that you would be interested in doing this particular thing, and would they be willing to publish it? And if they are willing to publish it, they can apply to Max Müller Bhavan for translation support, and then through that money you would get paid for your translation. That is the second thing. Third thing, other kind of workshops, but I mean, no, third thing, when you're talking about English, another option is to approach, for example, Seagull Books. They are based in Kolkata. They have a huge German list. They translate from German into English. The only problem with the Seagull is that they usually don't take Indians for translation into English, because they find that the Indians, their English is not at par with the English of the other translators, let's say from England and US. But perhaps one can ask, write to them asking for an internship and all that, and maybe eventually get taken in as a translator on board. That could be one option. Himanshu, which other language would you be comfortable with?
Ma'am, in English only.
Right. So
Ma'am,
then,
because it's been ages. It's been ages. I haven't read Hindi as much because I have only read in 10 standards, like in school
right.
time. So after that, it will be difficult for me to cope up with that particular language because already I am engaged in some other language as well. So it will be like hectic for me to get enrolled in this one as well. So
I
that's
can
why,
understand. Yeah.
yeah, that's why it was my main concern, and it is my main concern for now. So if I focus upon Hindi, it will create a difficult job for me. So that, ma'am, because at times I have seen like one can usually like perform well in only one language. Is if I have to core the German one only, then obviously there will be some lag towards the English as well. I cannot be like perfect with both of them. Like only one can be the perfect one. So that's the case with my situation and my ideology towards the translation for now.
Right, I can understand. And that would be another distraction also in that sense, no? Because
Yes,
you
ma'am.
are already engaged with some other languages. Mm, English, like I said, even Goethe. Avantika, I don't know why you are here in this class. Is she still there? This is MA class going on, no? Or has she left? She came, she joined, she left. Okay, yeah. So where were we? Unfortunately, even Goethe Institute, it hardly ever gives, translation funding for English within India. They support translation into Indian regional languages. And I'll tell you the reason also, why they don't encourage English translations from India, because they, for them, if you think of it, US is also there, UK is also there. So, you know, so then they, all this language politics that obviously the Americans would do a better translation into English, and all that comes into play, you know. So those are also the things. And Himanshu, the fourth thing is, what you can do is eventually also think of having a kind of a group of translators, where you all, think of doing an anthology of shorter narratives or whatever together, or and think of approaching some publisher. So that way, what would happen is that you are not sitting alone and working, but it is a collective where each one gives, the others also feedbacks. Because translation is a very, you know, isolatory process in that sense. So, for example, these days I'm involved in a group. I'm a part of a group which is translating German crime fiction, shorter narrative crime fiction, into Hindi. And this will eventually get published as an anthology. So there we are 10 people on board. So, each one gives the others ideas. And that way you are not always looking for solutions alone. So that could be one possibility for you too,
I
Himanshu,
think
of
it
doing.
is with Vipul sir and Chandrika sir including, I think.
Ah, how do you know about it?
Ma'am, actually, I was a part of Doon earlier.
Ah, that's why. Okay. Now I know. Right, right, right.
So
Yes,
even I spoke to them, like they also stated me at times like kind of decaying of the language, particularly at times when used to be like one used to be like want to publish more, but at times when he or she doesn't get such kind of funds or something like that. So that's why they are also stating me at some point of life or like some point of stages of this particular language that at times you will feel that it is particularly decaying in terms of schools as well. Like for example, if I like for example, when I was about to complete my graduation, so I just look up for few options to work in school. So the criteria is like decaying every day or like since every 6 months or 7 months. It's just a means of like basis of that particular language. It is like just like a complementary option, not like that whether one is usually interested in teaching it.
I know. But I mean, if one talks about it as a decay, one also needs to think what is leading to that decay, no? Uh, I mean, everything has become so skill oriented. Uh, I mean, if you think, I'm taking it now at a different plane, in a different direction. Let's take the example of teachers, and how they make language. And you all are, most of you have done your graduation, or I mean, you all have learned a foreign language. That's why you are sitting here. So what happens is that most of us end up learning the language just as a way of learning a skill, but where do we think about the thoughts which are there within that language? Why does the language function in a particular way, and all that? And one of the reasons why we don't do all that is perhaps because the teachers who could facilitate that kind of thinking are also themselves totally stressed out. You know, if you take the example of the Doon and DU, both Chandrika and Vipul are permanent faculty, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. That is
so
the main concern in our like academic department all over the India. When I was also approaching to different universities, like applying for masters in Gujarat, Maharaja Sayaji Rao just consists like single permanent faculty. In Kerala, there are two permanent faculties, but still two more are like guest ones. So that's the main thing which student used to face at times of like pursuing masters, because it's like creates a big thing, because like one is like get indulged in masters but don't know what to do after that. So it creates a big problem in themselves as well, and as well as they cannot speak to their like the lecturers, because at times they are unable to, and at times in just because of these guest vacancies and like short term vacancies, or should I say, because ma'am, at times I also feel the same thing, because I got an idea only the BHU and the JNU. These two departments are the only two departments which I've seen consisting of all the permanent faculties for now.
exactly, yes. And if you look at it, I mean, BHU, what it is today and what it was 7, 8 years back, there is a huge difference, and that difference came because now BHU has permanent faculty. You know, so I mean, if someone is himself or herself worried about what the future entails for that person, how will they ever be able to give their 100%? You
Yes, ma'am.
know, so that is also one of the reasons why this decay happens. You know, so instead of sorry, I hope you all are not getting disturbed by the background noise from my place.
No, ma'am,
uh,
not at all.
Someone is busy in the kitchen. So yeah, so I mean, that decay is on the one hand of political nature in that sense, and of course it is also the decay at the ideological level, at the level of ideas. So one has to look at all that, and the same thing happens in translation also. So if we connect it, so translation is on the one hand about what the theorists are telling us that we should be reading, etc., etc. But also, one has to read the politics of translation, why something gets translated, why something gets translated in a particular way. For example, if we talk about feminist translation, why do they say that uh, one of the strategies of translation should be hijacking the text? You know, so all that, I mean, it's an interplay at different levels. Mm, I think I'm just speaking very randomly. I hope I was making sense. I mean,
Yes, ma'am.
uh, yeah. So, coming back to our text on Scopus theory, what I would suggest is just read it at home. And whenever we meet next, what is whenever we will be meeting on Wednesday, then we will do it in a bit more systematic manner. Uh, I will call off the class for today because I have to go to the university. There's some issue there. That is why I also took up that call. So I will take your leave.
Ma'am, can I ask you one thing, like
Yeah.
regarding our library, like is it open nowadays? Like can someone can come there over to issue some book or something like that?
See, last I heard it was open, but now with this new thing, I don't know. But I'm going today to the department in any case. So I will get a first hand idea and then I'll let you know, Himanshu.
All right, thank you so much, ma'am.
You're welcome. Anything else that you want me to find out from the department? If I'm going there, I can do that today.
Ma'am, just regarding the library, so that we can get some idea, because as I've mentioned, like I was searching for few books on Amazon and it was too costly, and like I thought I should for now I should like just borrow it from library to get
Right.
a source for now, so
Yes.
that investing in something like that and having a view regarding a particular book, so it will be beneficial for me to save funds.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that is the purpose of a library. Uh, ठीक है, I'll find out and let you know. Room 29 photo आ जाए. हाँ, I know. Room 29. I know. I'll do that. I'll take a photo. Cheers. Take care, all of you, and wish me luck for whatever I am going for today.
Okay,
Good
best of
luck
luck,
for
ma'am.
whatever you're going for.
Dankeschön. Tschüss, Leute.